Hello and welcome back to another web development tutorial. Today we are going to see how we can build this personal portfolio website from scratch using just HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript. And also we are going to make it responsive so that in small screen sizes, we can have this. So if you are new here, this is exactly what we do. We do tutorials in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so you do not miss any upload tutorial, and leave a like on this video if it helps you out. Now let's get into it. In the VS Code workspace, first have the index.html file, which contains some pre-written code. In the head section, we have the title of the project, which is over here. And then we have the script tag that we copy from fontawesome.com because we want to use some icons from the website in our project. And we have a link to the CSS file. And in the body element, we'll have a link also to the JavaScript file because we'll be adding some few lines of JavaScript code to make our personal portfolio website run as we want it. And that is all we need in the HTML file. Now in the CSS file, we first have this one line of code that we copied from Google Fonts because we want to be using the Poppins font family for our text. And then we have some global resetting properties like the margin, the padding, and also sets the box size into border box. And this is also all you need in the CSS file. And lastly, we have an empty JavaScript file, but later in the video, we'll add some lines of code to make the personal portfolio website run just as we want it to. So this is all we need to get started. And also we have an image here we use. We use this particular image. So this is all we need to get started. Now inside the body element, we first add the header. So in the header, we'll first have an H1 element, which will be the logo or the title of the website. And it appears over here. Then we have our unordered list for the navigation links. So we have list items, each containing some links. And the first link should be the home section. And copy and paste it 4 additional times so we can have 4 navigation links. The second for the about section. The third for the projects. And the last one for contacts. Then we come to the website of Font Awesome. And you search for the bars icon. Then we copy this I element and paste it in the header element. And it appears over here. And that's it for the header. Now the next element will be the main element. This will contain the main info and the main image. So inside the main element, you create a div section with the class name of main info. And you have an H1 element with an inner text. Then you have a P element also with some inner text. Then still in the main info, we have a div section with the class name of links. And this div with the class name of link will contain the icon for GitHub and LinkedIn. So we come to the Font or some websites and search for those icons. Now copy this I element, and we first have anchor element because there will be links to those platforms. We paste it in the icons. Have another link, and this will contain the GitHub icon. And they appear over here. Now this will be it for the main info. And we have another div section with the class name of main image. This will contain the image, and the src attribute should be the file path of the image. So it is in the images folder and has a name of image.jpg. And it appears over here as we see. Now this will be it for the main elements. So the last element will be the footer, and this will contain the stack of the developer. So first we have a span element with an inner text. Then we also have a div section with the class name of icons, and this will be the icons for the tech stack of the developer. So you're going to be using HTML icon, CSS icon, JavaScript, React, and Sass. And when you refresh, they appear over here. So this will be it for the markup of our project. Now in the CSS file, let's add some styles. So we are first going to start with the mobile first design. So for small screens, and we'll comment this out. So for small screens, what type of design do we want? We'll first make this unordered list here, which is this unordered list, the navigation links. You make it disappear for small screens. So in the header, select any unordered list and set a display to none, and it disappears over here. Now let's start the header itself. So with the header, turn it into a flex box. And by default, the flex direction is row, so it will be in the horizontal direction. So the justify content, set it to space between. Set the align item center. Now let's add a pattern of 20 pixels. And let the Z index be 999 because we want it to be displayed above everything else. And we style the I element over here. So with my header, any I element, increase the font size. Then we bolden it. And when you hover over it, you want a cursor. That is a human hand. Now let's set properties for when you hover over it. To increase the size, we'll use the transform property to scale by 1.2. Then we add a transition to the icon of 0.3 seconds so we can have a smooth transition. Now, when we click on it, we want to display the unordered list. So we come into the JavaScript file, and the first thing we do is to grab the icon over here and the unordered list, and then we assign them to variables. So we grab the I element and assign it to the variable unordered list. We use a query selector to grab any unordered list. And also we do same for the FA bars. So we grab any element with a class name of FA bars. Now when you click on it, we want to display the unordered list. So we add an event listener to the FA bars. And the event will be click. And when you click on it, we do something. So when you click on it, you get the unordered list and give it a class name of active. So that means when you click on this FA bars icon over here, we give the unordered list a class name of active. And then come into the CSS file and then add properties for when the unordered list has a class name of active. So with my header, any unordered list with a class name of active. Then we set a display to flex so they can appear over here. So when you click on it, it disappears, and you click again, it appears over here. Now let's start the unordered list properly. Set the flex direction to column and remove the bulletin. And you add a border to it. Next, you add a box shadow. And you set the position to absolute to take it out of the normal flow of the document. Now let's position it properly. So set the right positioning to 20 pixels and the top positioning to 70 pixels. Now set the Z index to 1000, and it will since we set the Z index of the header to 999, setting the Z index of the unordered list here, place it above the header elements. Then you set the background color to white. Now let's start the list items. You add a padding of 10 pixels for the vertical and 40 for the horizontal. And you set the text align to center. And when you hover over it, you want to increase the size. Then we come back into the list item and add a transition of 0.3 seconds. Now let's start the anchor elements inside. So we first remove the underline and set the text color to black. Increase the font size and set the font weight to bold. And this is what we have. That's it for the header. Now let's style the main element. With the main element, let's set the text align to center. Then we add a pattern. You also set the display to flex. Turn it into a flex box and set the flex direction to column. Now in the main info, we style the H1 element and the P element. Add a margin to it. And increase the size of the P element. Next, we start the div section with the class name of links. To add a padding, set display to flex. Now set the justify content to center and align items also to center. Then we add a gap between of 20 pixels. Now let's start the icons inside the link class name. So the text color should be black. And we increase the font size. And when you hover over it, you want to increase the size. Then we come back and add a transition of 0.3 seconds. Just as we see over here. Now this will be it for the main info. So we style the image itself. So with the main image class name, let's style the image. So set the width to 300 pixels and the height also to 300 pixels. And set the object fit, because this image looks stretched, set the object fit to cover so it will not stretch again. Then we add a box shadow, 0 for the right, 0 for the bottom, and 10 pixel blur and a black color. Then we can add a border and a white color. And then we rounding the image by setting the border radius to 50% and add a margin of 10 pixels. And the last thing is to start the footer for small screens. Select the footer and then set the display to flex. Turn it into a flex box. Justify content center. And align items auto to center. Then we add a gap of 30 pixels. So there can be a space between this text and these images. Now in the footer, we first start the span element. So in the footer, start the span element, increase the size, and then we start the div section with a class of icons. Set a display also to flex and a gap of 20 pixels between all elements, and set the align items to center. And let's start the icons individually. So with the I element, we increase the font size to 2.5 EM. This is what we have, and this will be the final design for small screen sizes. Now let's make it responsive. So we use the media query for when the minimum width of the screen size is 768 pixels. That means for laptops, for tablets, for wider screens above 768 pixels, what do we do? So I'll try and get the screen size above 768 pixels. I think this will be okay. And then first, start the H1 element over here. So with my header, any H1 element, I'm going to increase the font size to 2.5 EM. Then we don't need this icon over here. So again, inside the header, any item with a class name of FA bars, set display to none, so it can disappear. And then we start the unordered list that we made it disappear. So with the header, any unordered list, this time we set a display to flex so it can appear. And here it is. We add a gap of 40 pixels between all elements and remove the bulletin. Let's start the anchor element inside it. Any list item and an anchor element inside the list item. Remove the underline and set the text color to black. Now increase the font size and rebolding the text. Now when you hover over it, hover over our li elements, we increase the size, scale by 1.4. And then we add a transition to the li element, 0.3 seconds. Now let's start the main. So with the main, we place it at the direct center. So set the margin to 30 pixels for the top, auto for the right, 20 for the bottom, and then auto again for the left. And it stays at the direct center. Now set the maximum width 2200 pixels and the width to 700 pixels. So that means the actual width will be 700 pixels, but on larger screen sizes, it will not stretch above 1200 pixels. And we add some styles to the main info. The main info class name. Add a padding top. Okay, so we go back and set the flex direction of the main to row so they can be displayed in the horizontal direction as we can see here. And then we add a padding top to the main info of 30 pixels. Then we start the H1 element here. So with the main info, any H1 element, font size, we set it to 2 EM. and add a margin bottom of 10 pixels. Lastly, we'll start a P element in the main info. Also give it a font size of 1.3 em and a margin bottom of 10 pixels. And this is exactly what we want. So this will be the final design of our personal portfolio website. So yeah, that's how to create a basic personal portfolio website using HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript. I hope this video helped you out. And if it did, make sure to leave a like on this video. And see you in the next tutorial.